Hello, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. I'm also the author of the book, Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. With me today, I have David Fisher, or D Fish. He's the author of the book here, Hyper-Connected Selling. And we're going to be talking about that and why he's written it and all those sort of things. Great book. D, I've read it, not written it. I've read it. Fantastic. But before we go any further, where can people get hold of you? Just, what's your Twitter and your LinkedIn and
all the vital information.
Yeah.
Easiest place to find me, davidjpfisher.com. That's where all of my writing is, all the information about me. But social media, on Twitter @dfishrockstar, on LinkedIn /IamDfish. And you can also find my podcast at beerbeatsandbusiness.com.
So just explain to everybody the difference between David Fisher and D Fish.
We're one and the same, except for the only people that calls me David is my mom and my wife. I was a drummer for a very long time in a funk band, and picked up the name MCD Fish because I would actually rap every once in a while. And some people just started calling me that at work, and it kept going. And now, it's just become who I am, and that's fine. So D or D Fish, you can call me anything as long as it's with a smile.
Okay, cool. Good. So this isn't your first book, is it? This is what, your third or your fourth or
seventh?
Yeah, right, I can't count, obviously. So why hyper-connected selling? Well,
for me, it was actually a extension of the writing I've been doing. I'd written a number of books on networking, kind of both the old school in-person relationship building and also the online world. And I realized that my writing kept becoming more and more conflated, that offline and online world. And I really realized that that's the new landscape. That's what I really think the hyper-connected world is. It's where our offline conversations, our online conversations really have to start meshing. And really, for those of us in the sales world and those of us who are trying to influence others, we have to be able to kind of code switch between the two, but also align them if we're going to be successful. So that's kind of what inspired the book.
So I'm going to come on to some of the things in the book because there's some really interesting concepts that you come up with. But that's really interesting in the way that you talk about online and offline, because I actually always argue that what we're doing right now online is no different than what we did offline in terms of networking. And you went to an event and you found someone and you talked to them and you found you had a little bit in common with them, and you swap business cards and you go, well, I don't think that person's really going to be helpful to me, but I'll keep the business card. I've got a shelf here which I keep business cards, which is right. What I'm reaching for. And you go, and then 6 months later you go, who was that guy that I met that was about something, and I'll make contact with them.
Yep.
Or you go and you meet somebody and you go, that's really interesting, we need to have a coffee now.
Right.
And I don't see anything different from that, and going up and doing that social, and also doing that online. Or do you?
No, I think you're right on. I think that social media, social selling, digital communication, all these really is just the next step in engaging and interacting with people. To me, these are just tools, right? Did the phone change in-person networking? Well, yeah, obviously it changed it. It didn't make it go away, but instead of now having to actually reach out with your physical presence or send a letter, you can now call somebody. Then we could email somebody. And now we have just more tools, more platforms. I don't think they replace anything. They just cause it to evolve, to change. Our conversation is a great example of that. There's a pond in between you and I. If all we had was in-person networking, we probably would never meet. But because of the ability for us to connect on LinkedIn, I think was where we first connected, we were able to start a conversation, get to know each other, and then it made sense for us to have this call. So yeah, I think these are we have to look at these just as tools, not as things that are going to replace how we actually talk to each other completely.
And in the book, I mean, you go a lot into the fact that we live in this hyper connected world, which I agree with. I mean, one of the things that Jack Kowalski talks about is the fact that people kind of they don't know when to switch from being online to offline, and they're continually having these conversations online when they actually should be saying, look, let's stop talking on here, let's go and talk face to face. Do you see that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Realize one of the challenges that we have, even just in offline networking and relationship building, is just etiquette and human communication. We're trying to figure that out as we go through our lives. Now we've added a bunch more wrinkles, right? And so I do think that we see a lot of people either struggle to make that leap from the online to the offline world, or they hide, right? Especially us in the sales world, you know, it can be hard to be rejected. It can be hard to sometimes put yourself out there. We have this comfort zone, and gosh, it's just so much easier to send an email than to pick up the phone, right? So I think that he's absolutely right. And we have to continually monitor ourselves and monitor our relationships and go, what is the best way for me to communicate this? And, you know, is it time to pick up the phone? Is it time to actually meet in person? Or is it sometimes just enough for me to put that LinkedIn post out there for right now? And these tools are only a little more than a decade old. We're going to have to figure this out, and we are figuring it out in real time.
Okay, so what's your view on social selling, and you know, what is it for you, and what's your view on it?
Yeah, for me, social selling is almost a misnomer. It's just selling, right? And I've been in the LinkedIn game, for example, for basically since LinkedIn's been around. So before we called it social selling. And I just was like, wow, here's a cool tool that you can use to communicate with prospects, with customers, your entire network. And I think the people that are getting social selling right these days are the ones that look at these as tools. I can find out more information about people more quickly, more easily. I can have better conversations. I can move relationships along faster. That's what social selling is to me. It's just using these social tools to have those conversations we've always been having.
In the book, you talk about, and this is something you cover a lot, and I think we'll probably end up, this is a big subject here. You talk about the sales sherpa.
Yep.
Sales sherpa trademark.
Yeah. Oh, that means it's important.
Yeah. So you talk about, you use this term in the book about the because whenever we cold call somebody or we send them, or it's cold outreach, in effect we're gate crashing.
Yep.
We're interrupting them and we're stopping them doing what they're doing, and that isn't a great thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas you say with a sales sherpa, you talk about adding value. Now, I think the term adding value, most people online actually don't know what it means. Well, if I got 5 people in a room, you'd get 6 different definitions.
Absolutely.
So what for you is this? What's a sales sherpa to you?
Sure. So what I think has happened with the internet, with the wide availability of information, we've seen a switch where the new buyer's journey is really in the hands of the buyer. They have the information. They have access to all the knowledge they need. It used to be that we would cold call, we'd interrupt, but it would work because we might have had some knowledge that they didn't have. We had a tidbit or a solution to their problems they might not have known about. Not anymore. So if we keep trying to do that, we're just bothering them. And heck, I don't know how many emails you get a day. I get a couple hundred. It's pretty easy to ignore them. So what I think the sales sherpa does, and to your point about value, is they accept that the buyer's on their journey. They accept that that buyer has a lot of information, but they also accept that maybe the buyer doesn't know how to use it, that they don't know how to buy, or that they're overwhelmed, or that they've never bought what you're selling before. And so instead of pushing, you say, hey, I know you want to get up the mountain. Let me be your guide. Let me help help you do what you already want to do. And that might start well before the buying process even begins, right? That's why I think networking and the online relationship building and all these tools are so powerful. So instead of being that gate crasher and calling them and pestering, you reach out to somebody who might be a prospect and say, hey, I don't know if you are in the market for what I have right now, but I would love to get to know you, find out what's going on, maybe provide some value by giving you some insights, some information, help you do your job better, so that when you are looking to buy, I'm in the conversation. And that's really what I think that the sales Sherpa is all about.
So let me just go through that. So when you're in the buying, even before somebody's in the buying process, what you do is you may actually say to them, and if you think about, if you're buying an accounting system or you're buying a human resources system, you've probably not bought one from before. And quite often, whatever you're buying, you've not bought them before, unless you're you probably don't know about those things. So what you're saying is, and I'm going to say this without using the words adding value. What you would do to them is that you would say, here is something that I think would be of interest to you that would help you. So that might be not necessarily a boring white paper, but something that says, here is a document, here's an article, the top 10 things you need to think about when buying an accounting system. 10 reasons why implementing accounting systems fail. Yep. Those sort of things, the sort of things that they would actually be able to put under their arm, go into a meeting and actually say, well, I actually know what the top 10 things are that will make accounting system. And everyone goes, oh, do you? I go, yes. Right. And I read, wow, you really know your stuff. You need to run this project, don't you? That sort of thing.
Exactly. And then even taking it a step further, and once you've established some baseline relationship, being able to send them an article and say, hey, I know that this is a challenge that you're running into. So look at number 4 on here. This might be kind of relevant to what you're working on at company XYZ there. And yeah, giving value is actually helping not only just provide content and dumping information on them, but kind of connecting the dots, saying, hey, here's why you need to know this piece of information. And what I would argue is that if you keep doing that over and over, not only are you building your reputation with that person, but you're becoming what I call a micro influencer, right? People know that you talk about accounting software or HR software, right? You're the local expert. So that when somebody does need help with that, they're pulling you in versus you pushing yourself on that.
Yes. And I think that's really important. The fact that you're, I think the term again, inbound is used too much. But the fact of the matter is that people will actually come to you.
Yeah.
If this sort of thing, the micro influencer sounds, we've all started off at 0 followers. We've all been there. We all got our first 100. And we all know how difficult it is to grow a following. But if you set yourself up as a way of helping people, if you sit there and say, buy my stuff 20% off, 30% off, which are the emails that I get, which just get deleted or the people get blocked, people sound all the same. If you set yourself up to actually sound different from everybody, which is a way of, if you want to know how to buy accounting software, I can help you do that. And by the way, you don't need to tell them that you happen to sell it, but if people will come to you.
Right. No, that's exactly right. If they know that you are a problem solver and an expert in a certain area, and I've used a lot of air quotes today, but if you're the expert in that area, they're going to come to you. You don't have to have 500,000 followers to be an influencer. In fact, you just might need a couple hundred people, again, in your network, right? We're going to go old school here. What is your network but a bunch of connections? And have those people know that you are a problem solver. My accountant is not an expert in all things accounting to everybody. He's not a thought leader. But I'll tell you what, he knows a lot more than I do, and I know that he helps me out, so he's an influencer to me.
Yeah.
So when he's selling me accounting services, it's easy for him.
Yeah, and I mean, very similar. My accountant, he said, there's loads of accounting products out there. I happen to use Xero. Which one do you want to use, Tim? Xero. Right, good answer. Yeah.
Right.
And you know, if and I think sometimes, you know, I get what I see is, and I don't want to slag off Social Media Examiner and Marketing Profs, because I think that they're fantastic educational platforms, but quite often they come up with an article that says this is what you need to do and this is how you write an email, and I start getting these emails that look straight from this article, and I look at it and go, are you for real? I mean, do you not think that everybody else hasn't actually read that article and is doing exactly the same? And it's like, so I had a I don't know if you do this. I asked my Facebook, if someone comes to me and spams me, was it okay for me to go back and say, have you thought about reading my book?
I think
and all the Facebook said yes. If someone tries to sell you something, you legitimately can go back and try and sell them yourself. So you need to try doing this. So I've sold books by saying, you know, and I've actually gone back to people and said, do you realize you're just the same as everybody else?
Right.
Am I? So yeah. That article, that social, you mean everybody else is using the article from, yeah.
Yeah.
So
everybody reads HubSpot, you know?
Yeah. The HubSpot 10 things you need to know about sending an outreach email. It's like, yeah, you've used that. You've read the article. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the sales process now, do you see that it's being a linear process, or do you see it as being, what's happening with the buying process and the selling process?
Well, I mean, this is a good lead into another idea I have, which I call the sales matrix, also TM, so it must be important.
Yeah.
But I grew up in the direct sales world. That's how I got my start. It was very linear, right? The 7 steps to the sale: build rapport, establish a problem, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what we're seeing is, it's not that buying is, or I should say selling is becoming easier or harder, but it is becoming more complex because there are more sources of information. There's often, especially in the B2B world, more people involved in the decision-making process. We have to acknowledge all of that. And so for me, the sales matrix is just this context that sale happens in. The decision maker, the champion that you have, the end user, the person writing the check, those might be 4 different people. And if you pretend that there's a linear process and don't accept that complexity, you're going to be lost, because that's not really what the world is. You're confusing the map for the territory. So I do think that we are going to see much more complexity in the sales process. I actually say that if it's truly a linear sales cycle that you're in, you're going to be replaced, because for a salesperson to have relevance, they have to be able to add something that a machine can't, right? That AI and automation and just a simple website can't add. And what humans can add is the ability to connect different ideas, the ability to deal with people, to take some information and actually create context for the buyer, to actually develop that emotional connection, that empathy with the buyer who's another human being. So we have to focus on the areas where we can provide value, which are the human areas. If your sales cycle is truly algorithmic, it is going to get outsourced to technology, because a computer system doesn't have call reluctance, right? A computer system doesn't care if it's rejected. They'll just keep sending them out. So I also think this is a way, when embracing this sales matrix, for salespeople to continue to be relevant, not just successful, but actually have a job.
Yeah, I did an interview with a guy, an artificial intelligence expert, last week. And one of these people where he's kind of thinking about 30 seconds ahead of you. And but his view was that yes, AI will take jobs, but it's all ones that we've all, it's where you can make a simple process. He said what AI can't do is build rapport with people, have conversations with people, understand sarcasm, look somebody in the eye and know whether they're lying or not. For AI, it is very much binary. It's either it is or it isn't. I mean, I always tell the story about somebody that who's working for an ERP vendor, and someone rang them up and said, we've looked at your YouTube videos, we've looked at the white papers, and we want to buy your system. And the salesperson said, "You mean you don't want a demo?" I said, no, we don't need to see a demo. We've seen it on YouTube. Now, obviously, they're not the best negotiator in the world, because they obviously rang up and declared that they wanted to buy. But,
right.
The fact of the matter is, at that point, that salesperson, and she happens to be a very good salesperson, had become an order taker. And there's nothing now to say, a lot of people come to me, B2B, it's all about, I have to see sitting in front of the customer. I have to be, it's so complex what I sell. There has to be a discussion. Yeah, maybe for a $500 million, where we're outsourcing the whole of JP Morgan's to, we're going to outsource that. Maybe that's the case, but you can actually go online and actually research all that and form your shortlist from people that are talking about outsourcing. And you can actually get to a point where when you go to make a decision and you search for people, and if those people aren't talking about it and you've got a shortlist of 2, you may deselect one.
That's exactly right. In fact, I would say that process, that's why being the sales sherpa is so important. You want to get yourself on that short list, because the research shows that in a B2B sale, somewhere between 60 and 80% of the decisions made before a salesperson is ever contacted. So if those numbers are even close to right, a lot of the decision is happening behind closed doors without you involved. So yeah, you want to make sure that when they are ready to reach out to talk to a vendor or a couple of vendors, that you're on that short list. You're one of those top 3. Then you can go and influence. Because I would also say, if they don't need you, if you're an order taker, your job is going to go away.
Yeah, and the thing that I like about the Sales Sherpa trademark concept is that and one of the things that we try and get over to people, that social selling actually isn't different. It's not a different way of selling. You still will use all of the sales concepts and things that you've learned over the last few years. It's just more about engaging with people on social, finding them earlier, and then you can actually close them before the competition using all of your amazing powers of salesmanship. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's really about being human, and even more human with your prospects, with your customers. Again, the ability of a sales sherpa, this isn't easy, by the way. I think a lot of times when I have conversations with people, I get pushback, especially from the old school, right? No, you've got to bang out the dials. It's all about effort and work and hustle. Hey, I'll tell you what, to be a successful sales sherpa takes a lot of work. Starting, building, cultivating relationships is hard, right? It takes effort. It takes, the ability to actually talk to people, to figure out some insights to share. This isn't about, just sitting there on your computer every day doing a little, LinkedIn search or a Twitter search. That's not this at all. But it is really still about reaching out, starting that conversation, and then finding ways to cultivate it. Because there might be a way to help now and immediately. It might be in 2 months. It might be in a year. But yeah, I do think that using social does not change anything. In fact, it makes it a more rich experience. And that's what we need to be able to, as salespeople, we need to figure that out, because it is not as simple as it was in the past.
That sounds like a really good place for us to conclude today. Thank you. Remind everybody where they can get hold of you.
Come find me at davidjpfisher.com. There's no C. Also find me, Deep Fish Rockstar, on Twitter. I'm also on LinkedIn. Just search David G. Fisher. And
don't forget to buy the book.
You've
got one as well.
That's important.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's a little site called Amazon. It's available in print, Kindle, and audio version. You can hear me read the book to you if you'd like.
Fantastic. Dee, it's been great talking to you, and best of luck with the book. Talk to you soon.